4 months ago when Blake Lively was getting cancelled, I was concerned with the reaction I was seeing. And I saw a lot of people hating on her because of what I believe were their defense mechanisms. I pointed out that when we feel a very powerful emotion towards a celebrity, it's usually because we're projecting our own unwanted traits onto them, or because we're displacing how somebody else from our real life has made us feel onto them. And my audience overall consists of pretty bright people, but as you can imagine, it wasn't exactly a popular take to make during a cancel hate train towards someone. Now that Blake Lively has sued her coworker Justin Baldoni, we have a lot more to unpack, both on the Blake Lively front and on the Justin Baldoni front. Specifically in today's video, I'd like to share a different defense mechanism with you, called reaction formation, which is when somebody tries very hard to convince us that they are the opposite of what they truly are like. And hopefully by the end of this video, you can see why I could kind of see this plot twist coming from a mile away. So in case you're not familiar with all the details of what's going on, when the press tour for It Ends With Us started, the internet started noticing that many of the movie's stars, including Blake Lively, had unfollowed Justin Baldoni on Instagram, and that they were not participating in the press release with him. And pretty immediately afterwards, Blake Lively became cancel culture's newest target, specifically for a few things. Number one was for keeping discussions of the movie pretty lighthearted, promoting her hair care line during those promotions, and not focusing on the topic of intimate partner violence, which from here on out I will call IPV. Number two, some old interviews of her resurfaced in which people were accusing her of being a mean girl. And number three, a history of questionable behavior such as supporting Woody Allen and getting married at a plantation. The devaluation of Blake Lively was juxtaposed with the idealization of Justin Baldoni during this time, who particularly women were kind of foaming at the mouth over, for how perfectly he spoke about IPV, for what he must have suffered at the hands of Blake Lively's diva antics, and so on and so forth. Well, recently Blake Lively has sued Justin Baldoni. According to this Forbes article, Lively's legal team accused Baldoni and his PR team of attempting to manufacture a smear campaign against Lively and accused Baldoni of on-set sexual harassment. The lawsuit contained several serious allegations against Justin Baldoni. Apparently, there was a meeting attended by Lively, her husband, Baldoni, and their lawyers to address Lively's complaints on the set of It Ends With Us. Lively had a number of requirements in order for her to continue working on the film, such as no more showing nude videos or images of women to Blake, no more mention of Baldoni's alleged previous pornography addiction, no more discussions about sexual conquest in front of Blake and others. Also, no further mentions of cast and crew's genitalia, no more inquiries about Blake's weight, and no further mention of Blake's dead father. Baldoni allegedly claimed he could speak to the dead and on several occasions told Lively that he had spoken to her dead father. Lively's filing includes texts and emails between Baldoni and his PR team detailing the online strategy to damage Lively's reputation, inflaming the negative narratives about Lively that were beginning to brew online. Baldoni's crisis management expert Melissa Nathan wrote to Jennifer Abel, a public relations executive involved in the campaign, stating, "And socials are really ramping up. In his favor, she must be furious. It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women." Now remember, the sexual harassment allegations from these court documents were documented before Blake Lively was canceled. And I hate to say it when it comes to this topic in particular, but I told you so. In my original video on this topic, I had this to say about Justin Baldoni. Blake Lively is taking the brunt of the devaluation and Justin Baldoni is really being idealized. And look, like I said, his answers are great. He seems very respectful, very put together. He seems like a great guy, but I don't know him. I can't say that for sure. I wouldn't be particularly surprised if 10 years from now something came out about him showing that this was all just fake, because you do not know this person. And this is what I wrote in a later comment that I pinned. Since recording this, I heard that Justin Baldoni hired a PR firm who has worked with celebrities to, in my opinion, discredit women who have accused them of IPV. I find this choice very interesting indeed. Now here's what I did not say, because I knew I was going to be crucified for it. I was not convinced by Justin Baldoni's performance in his promotion of the movie It Ends With Us. It felt like just that to me, a performance, something very rehearsed. There was something too polished about it.
As a man, I'm always going to come with my own biases, and it's one of the reasons I was afraid to direct this movie, let alone act in it. And I wanted to make sure this film always had a female gaze, and I was never putting myself into it. But one of the things that I think is very easy to say, especially for us men, is when we maybe talk to somebody who's in this situation, or we read a book, or we or we hear a news story, the question that's always asked is, why did she stay? And that's the wrong question.
Yeah.
What we need to be asking ourselves is, why do men harm?
Yes.
First of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay?
Yeah.
Right? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable.
And I think the reason I saw this coming is I caught onto a psychological phenomenon called reaction formation, when a person works overtime to try to hide who they really are. For example, let's say that there's a man who makes inappropriate sexual comments to his female coworkers, and when he realizes he's about to get exposed for it, hires a PR firm that has also absolutely demolished the lives of women who have accused their partners of IPV. Reaction formation would be a guy like that trying to convince us that he's a good guy, taking it on himself to direct a movie about IPV, going to great lengths to uplift victim stories, and just generally position himself as an ally to women. In general, I'm very wary of men who call themselves male feminists or who build their entire identities around being allies to women. You know why? Because good men don't need to constantly convince people that they're such good men. Their actions show it. The men I've known over the years who have been the most empowering to the women in their lives, they would never think to describe themselves as feminists. On the other hand, most of the male feminists that I've known in my life were people who were causing a lot of harm to the women in their lives and using a form of sex-positive feminism to their own advantage. Here's another example of something that could be reaction formation. Two coworkers signing a no-drama pact when they start working together, being all over each other in the press tour of their movie, constantly touching each other and talking about what good friends they are. From my perspective, it's like if starting drama was never on your mind, why would you need to sign a no drama pact, you know? Obviously, I'm talking about Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo here. I've seen comments online of people saying like, oh, people's reaction to friendship just shows how uncomfortable society is with platonic love. Sorry, but no, that's not it. People are finding it weird because it feels fake and performative and over the top, because this is not how friends actually behave in real life most of the time. We kind of have an intuitive feeling when someone is just playing something up to hide the polar opposite. Reaction formation is basically the psyche's way of preserving balance. We live in a universe that operates on the law of polarity. There's north and south, summer and winter, kindness and cruelty, and the universe strives to maintain equilibrium between these polar opposites. When things go too far into one direction, it tips things into the other direction for balance. The same exact thing happens with our psyche. When we unconsciously know of something very shame-producing about ourselves, we consciously try to balance out the scale by tipping it into the opposite direction. Why do you think I work overtime to be optimistic? It's because my baseline impulse is to be pessimistic. I tend to catastrophize a lot. I need to overcompensate for it. Why do you think narcissists give off an air of arrogance and grandiosity? Because deep down, they are deeply insecure and self-loathing. So start to notice when the people around you are working just a little too hard to try to convince you who they are. When it feels performative and it feels over the top. When they build their entire identities around one thing. And then ask yourself, could this be reaction formation? What might be under the surface that they're trying to overcompensate for? And do this particularly with people in your life, not so much with celebrities, because at the end of the day, we don't know these people. But the reason I had such a strong feeling that Justin Baldoni was employing reaction formation was because of the fact of the situation that he hired a PR firm that has ruined the lives of women. That is a fact, and that is not something that men do when they are allies to women. Putting aside the whole sexual harassment claims, I don't know about that. It seems like Blake Lively has a lot of evidence, and I hope that the courts reach the right conclusion with it. But what I'm preoccupied with is the facts of the situation that I can see with my own two eyes. Now back to Blake Lively. So like I said, there were kind of three things that she was criticized for. Number one was keeping discussions lighthearted and promoting her hair care line during the press tour. And we now know, based on the court documents, that this was Sony's instructions to keep things light, to not discuss IPV very closely, maybe to make it more marketable, more palatable to the masses, and that Justin Baldoni allegedly switched up his entire method at the last moment, deciding to really go deep discussing the IPV topics. Number two, some old interviews resurfaced that painted her as a mean girl. Now, her behavior in those interviews remains what it was. We just now know that these were part of a concerted effort to smear her reputation, which is what I told you guys might be the case in the very first video. And honestly, the most concerning part about all of this is how people are commenting on these videos of Blake Lively, saying like, oh, people are getting wiser, we're smartening up, now we can't be manipulated by PR spin Americans anymore were more media literate, because to me, the way that this has been approached has shown me how incredibly media illiterate people still are. How are you being media literate for hating on somebody that you've never met? How are you going to claim that that's not you being brainwashed by the media? Any of us would sound terrible if you make a highlight reel of our absolute worst ever moments caught on camera. And I ask you, do you think you would last very long in the public eye if all your worst moments, most awkward moments, your biggest faux pas, biggest blunders were put under a microscope for the internet to dissect? I don't think any of us would last very long. Now, as for number 3, Blake Lively's history of questionable behavior, such as getting married on a plantation, defending Woody Allen. From what I understand, she's apologized for getting married on a plantation. It's not really my place to forgive her for that. But honestly, anytime a celebrity apologizes for something, it's perceived as insincere by people. As for the Woody Allen thing, I hope she's reevaluated her stance on that, given her recent allegations against Justin Baldoni. Who knows? Now, I've seen some people openly admit that they were bamboozled by the smear campaign against Blake Lively, and kudos to those people for realizing it, for self-reflecting, and for having the strength to openly say that. But unfortunately, I've also seen a lot of people, primarily women, doubling down and saying things like, sorry, I don't believe her, or she's just trying to save her reputation by accusing Justin, or they could never make me like you, Blake Lively. And look, I get it. It's painful to admit when we were part of the problem, when we were manipulated by the media. It's much easier to just double down and protect your ego from reality. But here's the thing. Again, Blake's allegations against Justin had a paper trail. They were formally documented long before she was canceled. If I'm understanding correctly, he had to actually sign off that certain things would be different moving forward in the production of the movie. There were also other people involved, and pretty much everyone in the cast was on her side. And even if Blake's allegations of sexual harassment were completely unfounded, that does not change the fact that those subpoenaed texts showed Justin Baldoni hired a PR team to bury her and ruin her reputation. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. You want to feel like she can be buried. Of course, but when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with. You did such amazing work. Narrative is crazy good. So did you. And socials are really, really ramping up. It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women. Fans remain supportive of you and believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie. At least it doesn't mention Scooter, but still. I'm sorry, she's a fucking bitch. She's a fucking bitch. Do you think this makes him look guilty though? Honestly. My partner Steve asked about flipping the narrative from this leak. Even if a woman makes a false allegation against a man, you are not a good guy and a feminist ally. If you then unleash a hellfire onto her, if a good guy were to receive a false allegation, all he would need to do is just openly present the facts that exonerate him. Weaponizing a society's eagerness to scapegoat a woman and vindictively trying to ruin her life does not constitute a good guy in my books, but what do I know? And that's really the part of this that pisses me off the most. Anytime a celebrity gets accused of abuse or sexual harassment or anything else, I leave that to the courts to decide. I don't see myself as the arbiter that has to decide who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And the same is true here. It looks like Blake Lively has some really solid evidence behind her, but I'm not going to position myself as the one that gets to decide where the truth lies. What I do have a strong opinion on is celebrities who try to manipulate us, the general public. When I can see with my own 2 eyes the manipulation tactics that they are employing, the PR firms that they are hiring, the fact that those PR firms have previously ruined the lives of female victims, well, now you've got a problem. Now you've got my attention. Because regardless of what happened between these 2 celebrities behind closed doors, now I'm seeing the proof with my own 2 eyes that you are the problem. So I have a favor to ask of all of you watching. Can we make it a career ender for celebrities to hire these super predatory PR firms? Because clearly these PR firms are not going to stop. They're just going to get sneakier about their tactics. They're just going to not do this over text. So let's put the onus on celebrities then. If you hire a PR firm that has used bot campaigns and ruined the lives of celebrities who have made abuse allegations, you are automatically in the wrong. You clearly have something to hide. You're done for. Your career's over. Can we decide that as a group? Can we please make it a career ender to hire PR firms like this one? And there's just one more thing that I want to touch on, and that's the interview that celebrity reporter Kirsty Flaw released right as Blake Lively was getting canceled left and right. Now, when this interview was released, I did think that Blake Lively was acting like a bit of a mean girl, a bit passive-aggressive.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are
Do you
you
like the
there?
movie? Are you a Woody Allen fan?
I love most of his movies, and this one was so like visually amazing.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Did you guys love wearing those kind of clothes that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And working in
Everyone
digital.
wants to talk about the clothes, but I wonder if they would ask the men about the clothes.
I would.
I love Jesse's
He has
suits
some
and
beautiful.
how
That's what I'm saying.
he
His wardrobe was beautiful.
I know.
Corey's
Everybody.
wardrobe
I
was
know.
gorgeous.
He's
Those
so
high-waisted pants.
He's so great.
I wish men
And
wore
sorry,
high-waisted
too.
pants
I
like
know.
that.
This reporter posted snippets of this interview that amounted to 4 minutes long. I know what it's like to be bullied by a mean girl, but I also know what it's like to put my foot in my mouth and to be socially awkward and to have my social anxiety be misinterpreted as coldness. And I said as much in my original Blake Lively video. And I almost never read my comments, and when I do, I don't put much stock in them, but occasionally there's a comment that is so brain dead, it literally sticks with me for years. And this is the case with one comment I read where somebody said, well, aren't you yourself projecting your social anxiety onto Blake Lively? Why is it wrong for us to project that she's a mean girl when you're just projecting your social anxiety onto her? There is a difference between accusing someone of doing something that you yourself are doing even in that very moment and giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes and thinking, how might I feel in their position is not called projection. That's called empathy. And in fact, it's a very good rule for life to show people grace, to ask yourself in what situations you've acted like them, and to assume the best of intentions before jumping down their throat. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with a lot of misunderstandings and conflicts on your hand. And I'd also like to extend that message to this reporter, this Kirsty woman. After Kirsty's interview with Blake Lively went viral, she also posted her interview with Anne Hathaway, in which she tried to frame Anne as the new Blake Lively. For context, this was Anne's unforgivable behavior in the interview.
So I was gonna ask you to do the first question in singing. Can I sing it to you and you can sing back the answer?
Oh, I won't be doing that, but you're more than welcome to sing.
Kirsty Flaw. Do you feel that love was more passionate back then, or people would sacrifice more for love than we do today?
No.
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 Do you remember your first crush?
No.
You don't? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
In 2022, Kirsty also posted #Justice for Johnny Depp, which is super interesting since Johnny Depp was represented by the same exact PR firm that Justin Baldoni is represented by. Kirsty has recently spoken up and reassured us that she didn't receive financial compensation for this, that she wasn't associated with the smear campaign. And look, I understand that it's frustrating to deal with celebrities who are sometimes not the warmest, kindest people. I've also had bad days where I was left wondering, why do I even bother doing this? Why can't people just be kind? But Kirsty, I'm gonna need to see that full interview, okay? Not just 4 minutes of snippets, because absolutely any of us can be diluted into 4 minutes of our worst moments, taken out of context, and trimmed out of the other 56 minutes or however long the interview was. And whether or not that was your intention, you did massively contribute to the public hate campaigns against specific women for the crime of not being super nice to you 10 years ago. Believe it or not being nice to someone is actually not a crime. You know what is though? Sexually harassing a coworker and then retaliating when they report it. Meanwhile, you're out here liking comments insinuating that Blake Lively is lying about Justin Baldoni, and you have a track history of misogynistic clickbait. I hope those 5 minutes of fame were worth it. All in all, as you guys can tell, I'm pretty heated about this because I think it's difficult not to be angry about the fact that this is still happening in the year almost 2025. It is so clear to me that we just have learned nothing as a society. There are still thousands of women publicly saying with their chests, I don't believe this woman because I don't like her, or I don't believe this woman because she seems like a mean girl. We are still so eager to idealize a man who performs allyship and throwing actual women under the bus. We are just foaming at the mouth to humble women who, dare I say it, perhaps trigger our own insecurities as women. But I'm going to stop yapping about this, and if my videos on psychology can help even one person realize that they are falling prey to their defense mechanisms being weaponized by the media, then this will have all been worth it. Just as a reminder, with the end of the year coming up, my Goal Getter course is really great if you are somebody who has a New Year's resolution, wants to put it into action, but is struggling with really initiating that action or holding yourself accountable. I made it really simple for you guys. I put it into 2.25 hours worth of lessons and 33 concrete steps that if you actually watch all the lessons and take part in the steps, you will be closer to meeting your goal. Check that out, link is below, and I'll see you soon.